Hi friends, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking kind of like relationship advice. It is approaching Valentine's Day, so I guess I just have romantic stuff on my mind. Relationship kind of talk is something I want to film and chat about for a while, but I just never really compiled my thoughts too well or knew exactly what I want to film, nor did I feel like I had too much expertise on the subject. I feel like it's really something you can only gain through experience. Actually, at this point in my life, I was reflecting on it. I'm like, I've been in a relationship for over 6 years now. I think approaching like 6.5 years, which is really crazy. My boyfriend is my first and only boyfriend I've had. And so I don't have experience in terms of like multiple partners, but I feel like being with a single person for that many years is pretty good experience in itself. Before I start as well, I want to clarify, I feel like it's pretty harsh to place expectations on someone you're meeting and getting to know. Like with these traits I'm going over, essentially every trait and behavior, they're like learned skills. Unless you have the like most amazing upbringing, I really doubt you'll be able to say right off the bat you have all these and are doing them perfectly. But I think these traits are examples of things I'm working on with my boyfriend as well. These are things like I think we both over time have gotten better at and has helped us strengthen our relationship and last this long. Because yeah, I think any relationship you start, especially if you're not super experienced like we were, you know, starting dating in high school, you're not going to be an expert in these things. I think with anything, communication is always key. So if you're recognizing like some red flags or yellow flags, things that are like kind of not so great, you should always bring it up to your partner and address the concern you have and what kind of behaviors you would like to see instead. Unless someone brings it to their attention, they maybe aren't even aware of it, or it might just be a very difficult habit to shake off. If you really truly love someone, hopefully you're willing to grow together and help each other improve and help your relationship grow. Yeah, I just want to put that out there. These aren't like requirements to start dating. They're things we should all continually work on. But this was a really great topic for myself to reflect on, and I think it's just always great to reflect on these things, whether you're in or out of a relationship. My first trait is independence. The whole reason independence is so valuable, it's just so you don't become too reliant on one another. You really don't want to get so attached to the point you're losing yourself in order to fit into this person's life. In a relationship, you really want to act as a team. When you're doing a school project or working in a team, you're not trying to always be together 24/7 or copy their behaviors. A team is really to bring your own experiences and bring your own preferences and values and bring them together to form this collective. You know, you aren't trying to be clones of one another. It's really important to have your own friends, have your own hobbies. And independence is just a good general trait to have for yourself, you know, being able to go out and do things on your own. Of course, you want to enjoy spending time together and not like turn things down, but if you're meeting up with them in all of your free time and you don't have your own time for family, friends, or hobbies of your own, you really need to strike that balance, because for some, independence might come off as cold and like you don't want to pay attention to your partner. That was definitely me in the early stages of dating. I was just always wanting to do my own thing and not necessarily making plans or like prioritizing time with my boyfriend. So he felt kind of hurt by that, and he had to bring that up to me, saying that, you know, it's coming off as like you're not interested. So I need to make those shifts to make sure we could spend a little bit more time together. In high school, like I didn't quit all my clubs and organizations I was in just to spend time with him. You know, those are important things in my life and I'm going to focus on them as well. But I just found other ways to squeeze it in. So ensure you're independent and have those things outside of your relationship that bring you joy. It'll just make the whole relationship a lot less obsessive and sometimes leading into more toxic behaviors. And it'll just kind of let the relationship as well grow more naturally over time when you are spending your time doing your own things and then gradually growing and getting to know each other through that. My second trait to touch on is self-awareness, and along with this, humility. Being able to recognize that you are not always right. Everyone's going to have disagreements, but being self-aware will help you recognize your own role that you may be playing into this problem, as well as things that you can do, even if it isn't super your fault, but just things you could do to improve, to make the whole situation better. And a large part of this, I think, is to avoid being defensive. Say if your partner is bringing up a concern to you, truly listen to them and actually recognize, okay, yeah, what you're saying is actually right and I can work on that, instead of just being like, no, my way is right, you don't know what you're talking about. And honestly, that was a big problem for me and still is something I kind of try to work on. Like, my immediate response to any sort of judgment or what I perceive as judgment is to like defend myself and say why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I think it's better than what you're saying. I think what I'm doing might be better, but it's really only because I was taught and got used to that kind of habit and behavior over time. It's not necessarily the best way. So to work on that self-improvement as individuals, it's just going to help a lot if you have this self-aware and like humble mindset where you're able to look inward. Because imagine you try to bring up a concern to your partner and they just totally brush it off and say, no, I don't do that. And it's a conversation that gets brought up over and over again, and they don't make an effort to try and fix it, or they might not even recognize that it is a problem. That's really not great for the whole relationship. An important thing to note too is that there's almost never a wrong way of doing things. And when you're in a partnership, when you're a couple, you need to acknowledge what your partner's preferences are. They might not align with what you're used to and what you prefer, but when you are together, you should at least try and make an effort to fit what their ideal is. That might sound kind of bad, like you're gonna totally change yourself to fit their ideal persona, but that's not what I mean. When you are a couple, you operate as that team, like I said, and sometimes if someone's requesting something of you, you should at least make an effort to do that. For an example, I'm pretty introverted. I don't love going to parties all the time. I would honestly not go to a lot of the ones that my boyfriend would invite me to, just because it isn't my ideal thing. I'd rather spend my time doing something else. But he brought it up to me and would honestly had to bring it up regularly because it's something I didn't immediately change. But now I'm trying to make more of an effort because I recognize now that they are valuable to him, and it is kind of a sign of showing that you care about him and his loved ones. So once I recognize that, I really should push myself to go to them more, even if it isn't my ideal way of spending time. It's not like it's gonna hurt me in any way. Let me try and at least go to a few more than I used to before, and especially if it's like a really important event to him. Even not all of them, because I still have my own things to do sometimes, but if I have no reason not to, I should just go. And shifting that attitude, like, yes, I am an introverted person, but that doesn't mean I need to stick to that way completely just because it's what I'm comfortable with. For a lot of people, I think it's seen as better to be open to socializing. Therefore, I should try to improve that aspect of myself and get more comfortable being in social settings. And to have those moments of introspection and reflection all starts with being self-aware and being humble and recognizing that there are things you can fix or at least modify a little bit to improve yourself. If someone can't do that reflection and acknowledge their wrongdoings, can't apologize, that's really a big red flag. We all make mistakes sometimes or learn things maybe not the best way, so always just be open to that self-improvement. And kind of bouncing off of that idea is to also be level-headed. I think with that self-awareness, with that humility, you will hopefully be able to come off as a lot less aggressive and instead be a little bit more calm when there are disagreements happening, because you may recognize, you know what, I may have made the mistake. I'm not gonna get mad at you because let me first look inward and see if I played any role in this situation. Anger management is a serious skill that you need to learn over time. You know, so many adults, I think, in most of our lives can get very loud when they're angry, maybe even physical with their anger, and really that shouldn't be normalized. Those expressions, yes, they're natural in a way, but it's really something you should try and avoid at all costs. In a relationship, there most definitely will be disagreements, but if you're level-headed, hopefully those won't evolve into big fights. They'll just more of be conversation that might get tense in a way, but hopefully won't result in any physical violence or, you know, the kind of talking where it's very aggressive and rude and showing disrespect to the person. When you're having a disagreement, it should still be based on respect, not try to attack the person's character or throw insults just to make them feel bad about themselves. It should be a discussion that will actually lead to a solution, and therefore you shouldn't be trying to hurt each other's feelings. It's more just communicating your needs and plans going forward. So if you have that self-awareness we talked about, hopefully you'll be able to know how to calm yourself down, do things like breathing or just taking a moment before getting into whatever you need to say. These are all things that will hopefully bring you to a more calm state, not only with arguments and fights, but also just in daily life, like seeing how someone reacts to stressors. Like if something doesn't go according to plan, or they don't get something they expected to get, are they going to have a big breakdown, or are they able to just brush it off? And so again, just recognize that in yourself and with others. Are you able to stay pretty calm and stable, and even be that comforting person to someone else when they might be feeling down? Anger management is something really hard to control if you're constantly stressed out. Acknowledging those internal problems that might be going on inside the person or yourself so you can fix that and be a little bit more calm would be very rewarding. My next one is open-mindedness, and this is something that can apply to so many things. Activities, being open to trying new things, or even more serious stuff like politics or religion. Being able to discuss these topics without getting worked up, again, being level-headed about it. And open-mindedness is not suddenly agreeing with everything and throwing out all your past values and judgments. Open-mindedness is listening wholeheartedly and genuinely trying to get their point of view and understand them. But that doesn't mean that if you still disagree with them or still don't enjoy a certain activity, for example, that doesn't mean you have to force yourself to do it or agree with it. You guys are both, again, very different people. It's okay to have that independence. Just maintain that certain level of respect where you're not gonna judge your partner's character based on their beliefs or hobbies if they conflict with you. Acknowledging that they're important to your partner, respecting them and supporting them, and possibly making compromises that help fit those hobbies or values, whatever, into both of your lives. For example, I like spending a lot of time outdoors. I like going for walks and runs and going to the beach. And honestly, my boyfriend does not like going outdoors too much. He's not really a beach person, especially. I'd get into little discussions with him about how I would want to go to the beach, but he doesn't want to go, and that's just not really his thing. So instead of forcing him to go to the beach, I don't think you should ever force someone to do something they're not comfortable or not really the largest fan of. Instead, try to find something that implements both of your interests, and it's probably going to be a lot more fun because you both genuinely enjoy it. So for us, we found that we both really like going camping, and we started doing that a couple of years ago and try to make time for it every once in a while. But yeah, that's something outdoors which I like, and he finds a lot of joy in doing the setup stuff and cooking and making the fire. That was a good collective hobby we were able to agree on, and now we both really enjoy doing that. And for a more serious example, say religion, say one of you guys is an avid churchgoer and the other is an atheist, those seem like crazy differences, right? And I think if you are both so deep-seated in your beliefs, it'll be very hard to find that middle ground. But that's why open-mindedness is so essential. Not saying the churchgoer should stop going to church or the atheist should suddenly go get baptized. It's just a matter of trying to learn from one another, having those discussions of why you believe in what you do. Maybe the atheist will be willing to go to church every once in a while, but also the other person won't force it upon them. They can totally, I think, live their separate lives in that realm. I know this older couple at church where the husband was not a churchgoer, he was atheist. The other lady was a super prominent church leader. They were able to make it work. It's the idea that you're not necessarily agreeing, but you're respecting one another. And of course, those more serious topics will be harder. And that's why it especially gets harder as you just get older in relationships. Once it gets to something like where you're gonna live, what kind of house you'll have, if you want children and how many. Those are big things in your life, and you're going to have that proper dialogue to really understand one another. And through that communication, you'll hopefully see what might be able to meet in the middle and what might just be a deal breaker because you both are so set on your ideals. And that's not necessarily wrong too, but I think having that open-mindedness first, and then from there, after understanding each other's point of view and after trying to make compromise, if those things don't work out, that might be the breaking point. And my final trait, which might sound like the polar opposite of what I just said about open-mindedness, but let me explain. It's a certain amount of stubbornness and kind of confidence in yourself. Basically, I mean to be able to hold your own. And this is something really important that I feel like doesn't get addressed too much, but all the other traits I talked about, you know, independence, level-headedness, self-awareness, open-mindedness, those are things you'll practice to be ideally a very respectful and kind and loving partner. But say one of you in the relationship is not that great in a lot of ways. Maybe they have a lot of flaws. Like I said earlier, like someone may not be perfect right off the bat, and most times they're not. No one really is. And so this idea of stubbornness that I want to talk about is being able to stick up for yourself and being able to feel comfortable in your own voice in order to say when something is wrong, because again, communication is so key. So if you don't have that certain amount of confidence and belief in yourself, you might just become sort of a pushover. Say maybe your partner is telling you how to dress or who to hang out with. You know, those are situations where you need to be stubborn. You need to be able to stick up for yourself and say, why are you requiring that of me? Because they might be just a horrible human being who is controlling and won't acknowledge what you're saying, and okay, get them out of here. But sometimes people might just be raised in an environment where they really truly thought that way, and unless you are stubborn and stick up for yourself, sometimes they might not be able to make that mental switch because they might not even recognize that it's wrong in the first place. And along with this, you know, ending that relationship if it is something bothering you and not getting fixed over time. Maybe stubbornness is not the right word, but I feel like it caught the general idea. But it's more so that self-confidence, that value in yourself and respect for yourself, so you can live and believe in and do whatever is right for you and not just accommodate to your partner's every need. And I think both partners just need to trust in themselves first and foremost, because if not, there's just going to be this bad like power dynamic thing. If someone's way confident and someone has like none, they're like very vulnerable, that is truly when an abusive relationship happens. So all of these traits I talked about, they're things that operate in combination, and you might need to be one more than another depending on the situation. For example, stubbornness, I'm not saying be stubborn in trying to change your partner. Say they're like not ready yet to do like intimate things together. I'm not saying you should be stubborn in trying to push them to do that. Like that is coercion pretty much. So no. Stubborn in like standing up for yourself. With that same situation, like if your partner is coercing you into doing something intimate you're not okay with, be able to say, no, I already said no, and I'll tell you when I'm ready. It's all about clear and respectful communication with all of these and applying these certain traits when it fits the scenario. So with that brings me to the end of today's video. I hope you folks enjoyed it and gained some sort of insight from it, or just things to reflect on. And like I said, we're not all perfect. I'm in no way exuding all of these to a T, but they're just things to be aware of and continually try to work on. That's all we can really do. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you would like to, and I'll see you folks in the next video. Bye!